A child laughing in the library, a man in dusty work boots on linoleum, a woman who belonged to the past. What he saw that late afternoon wasn't just an old love returning. It was a carefully built secret, tying a reading table to a multi-million-dollar contract and to a promise that was never kept. A secret that would have stayed buried if he hadn't heard the exact sentence, said in the exact way only she could say it. This is the story of how an unexpected return flipped a family's fate upside down. The clock on Ryan Turner's dashboard read 6:47 p.m. when he pulled into the Riverside Elementary parking lot, and he was already 13 minutes late. In the arithmetic of single fatherhood, late doesn't mean tardy. It means failure. Mrs. Caldwell had sent 2 reminder emails. He'd read them both. Then his site foreman called at 5:55, and the next 40 minutes disappeared. He grabbed the folder off the passenger seat, Sophie's drawings, an unsigned field trip slip, 3 weeks of mental notes, and jogged to the entrance. Boots still dusty from the job site. The automatic doors opened, and warm school air hit his face. Crayon-scented. Overlit, paper turkeys from November still on the walls that nobody had taken down. He slowed to a walk. He didn't want to look like a man running from something. He was reading room numbers when he heard Sophie's voice from the library alcove. "Miss Sinclair, look, I drew you reading to us." Ryan stopped. He turned. And the air left his lungs like a punch between the shoulder blades. There, crouching to Sophie's level, holding a crayon drawing with careful hands, was a woman he hadn't seen, spoken to, or heard from in 10 years, 3 months, and what felt like an entirely different life. Slate gray coat, hair shorter, posture straighter. But the line of her jaw and the tilt of her head was the same. Avery Sinclair. Ryan's grip on the folder tightened until the cardboard bent. She hadn't seen him yet. She was looking at Sophie's drawing, saying something warm and quiet, and Sophie was doing the specific giggle she only used around people she genuinely trusted. And that, thought Ryan, is the part that's going to break me. She hadn't just come back. She had already arrived. She was already inside his daughter's world, and he hadn't even known her name was there. Before we go back, subscribe to the channel, because when someone returns after 10 years, the reason matters. If you've ever had someone vanish without a word, you know the stomach drop before your brain catches up. Let's go back 24 hours. 5:15 a.m. A Cleveland kitchen that needs new countertops and has needed them for 2 years. Coffee maker hissing. Overhead light flickering the way it does every winter. Ryan eats cereal over the sink. No time to sit. Checking the weather and the delivery estimate for the Lakeview Community Center project, which is 3 weeks behind schedule and burning budget like a slow leak in a dam. He's been a construction foreman for 11 years. The kind of good that looks like everything just working. He keeps his crew employed, timelines honest, bids fair. But the Lakeview project is different. Grants, municipal approvals, private investors he's never met, and there have been whispers lately about one key development partner reviewing their commitment. Nobody says pulling out directly. Ryan has worked long enough to read the spaces between words. He goes upstairs. Sophie's room smells like lavender from the diffuser her grandmother sent. She's 7 and sleeps like a sculpture, perfectly still, one arm around Gerald the stuffed elephant. Ryan stands in the doorway for 12 seconds. He's not aware this is a habit. He just does it. It's how he checks the world is still intact. He thinks of Rachel sometimes, in these moments. Sophie's mother. The accident was 4 years ago. A rainy highway. A truck that drifted. Grief, Ryan has learned, is not something you get past. It's something you build around. Rachel is still load-bearing, even now. He wakes Sophie with the promise of blueberry waffles and makes them anyway, because some mornings love is standing at a waffle iron when you should already be leaving. At the job site, his foreman Marcus Okafor finds him at the blueprint table. Marcus is 41, built like a former linebacker who found God in carpentry. He speaks in sentences when things are fine and fragments when they're not. This morning, fragments. Deliveries pushed, Tuesday. Ryan doesn't look up. How far pushed? Tuesday. Ryan looks up. That's 4 days. 22 guys standing by. They said Tuesday. Ryan sets down his pencil, rubs the back of his neck, the gesture Marcus recognizes as math, the kind that involves other people's mortgages. I'll call the office. Already did. They said the financing is being reevaluated at a higher level. Silence. The kind that lands like weather. What does that mean? Marcus looks at him over the rim of his coffee cup. Somebody with money is having second thoughts and doesn't want to tell us yet. He walks away, stops, turns back. You've got the school thing tonight. I'm not going to be late. Marcus gives him the look that says, you're always late. Ryan gives him the look that says, I know. He's late by 30 minutes, and the world shifts on its axis in a hallway that smells like crayons and broken time. Sophie spotted him with the radar of a child who has learned not to let the person who's left wander out of sight. Daddy! She ran. He caught her, pressed his face into the top of her head, and over her hair, he looked directly at Avery Sinclair. 3 seconds. Neither of them spoke. Avery rose slowly, still holding Sophie's drawing. Her expression was composed in the way of someone holding something still through enormous effort. Her eyes met his and didn't move away. He'd give her that. Mr. Turner, she said, measured, professional. Sophie told me her dad was coming tonight. Did she? Not a question. Ms. Sinclair's been helping me with reading, Sophie said, looking between them with the urgency of a kid who doesn't understand why the room temperature just dropped. She brought 3 new books last week. We're doing Book Explorers and I'm on level. That's great, Soph. He didn't take his eyes off Avery. Sophie looked between them. Do you know each other? The pause was 1 second too long. We used to, Avery said. A long time ago, Ryan added. Sophie found this satisfying in the way children find coincidences satisfying, evidence that the universe is basically orderly. She tugged Ryan's hand toward the classroom. Come on, Dad, you're late. He let himself be pulled. At the last second, he looked back over his shoulder. Avery was still in the same spot, still holding the drawing, watching him the way someone watches a door they're not sure will open again. The conference with Mrs. Caldwell lasted 22 minutes. Sophie was reading above grade level, a real gift for empathy, the teacher said. That landed on Ryan in a complicated way. Sophie's empathy came from growing up with loss that had texture and weight and presence. He wasn't sure he could take credit for it. When he stepped into the corridor to collect Sophie's coat, Avery was finishing a conversation nearby. The other parent moved off. They were briefly, accidentally, alone. We need to talk, he said. Low? I know. Not here. Not tonight. I know. I'll find you, she nodded once. The crowd swept between them and she was gone. Sophie took his hand in the parking lot and swung it, humming something tuneless. He was shaking slightly and she didn't notice. Good, he thought. She shouldn't have to notice that. He made grilled cheese for dinner, the only meal Sophie ranked above waffles. He watched her eat, cross-legged in her chair, still in school clothes, hair in the half-out ponytail she always had by end of day. Gerald the elephant wedged at the table edge. Sophie was talking. She talked through most dinners and Ryan ran 2 systems simultaneously. Ambient chatter that required nodding and specific content that required full attention. Ms. Sinclair says when you love a book, the story lives inside you even after you close it. Even when you're not reading, the people are still having adventures. Ryan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. She said that? And she said that's how she feels about Charlotte's Web, and she cried reading it to us once. But she said good stories make you feel things, and feeling things is how you know you're alive. He set his fork down. He remembered Avery at 23 window seat, always a book, crying at the end of Charlotte's Web every time. He teased her gently about it, the way you tease someone when you love them and want them to know you've been paying attention. She told Sophie that, knowingly or not, she chose the exact detail that would remind him she hadn't changed. "How long has she been helping your class?" Sophie thought, "Since before Halloween, so like, a lot of months, 4 months minimum." Avery had been 20 feet from his daughter's classroom for 4 months. "Do you like her?" Sophie gave him the patient exasperation reserved for obvious questions. "Dad, she brings books. She remembers everyone's names and what they're working on. She never makes you feel dumb when you mess up a word." She picked up Gerald and set him on the table facing her, what she did before saying something important. "She's kind of like what I think a reading fairy would be like," Sophie said. "If reading fairies were real and wore nice coats." Ryan laughed. Involuntary, genuine. Sophie grinned at the sound of it. He tucked her in an hour later. Left the hall light on. Sitting alone at the kitchen table, he stared at the refrigerator, the crayon top 5 list, Sophie's drawings, a photo booth strip from 4 years ago. Him, Rachel, baby Sophie, all three laughing at something off-frame. He thought, if Avery walks back out of Sophie's life the way she walked out of mine, it will break something in this kid that won't set clean. That was the stake, not his anger. Not 10 years of silence. Sophie, who lost her mother at 3, who had built a careful world of people she trusted, who had placed Avery Sinclair inside that world without Ryan ever knowing. I have to know everything, he thought. Why she left, why she came back, what she wants. Because Sophie cannot survive another disappearance. He didn't sleep until 2 a.m. At 5:15, before coffee, before anything, he opened his laptop. Avery Sinclair, CEO. Results in under a second. He stared at the screen for a long time. Avery Sinclair, Chief Executive Officer, Pinnacle Meridian Development. Headlines, photos, a posture practiced until it became instinct. Built Pinnacle Meridian from 3 people to a $40 million operation in 8 years. 8 years. While he'd been pouring foundations, raising a daughter, carrying grief like a tool he'd learned to use, Avery had built an empire. He scrolled and froze. Lakeview District Community Center project. He called Marcus, the private development partner reviewing the financing. Do you have the name? A beat. I was going to tell you today. Marcus. Pinnacle Meridian. Their CEO started a review about 3 weeks ago. Ryan closed the laptop. 3 weeks ago, after Halloween. When Avery had already been at Sophie's school for months, he sat with the geometry of it, his daughter's classroom, his job site, Avery at the center of both. Did she plan this? Engineer it? Or is it coincidence? Or something in between I don't have a word for yet? He pulled on his jacket and grabbed his keys. I'm going to find out tonight, before she disappears again. He found her at Riverside Elementary the following Tuesday, 6 p.m., her regular volunteer slot. Sophie had mentioned it 3 times over the weekend without knowing she was providing surveillance. The library was quiet. A parent volunteer shelved books at the back. 2 kids read in the corner. Avery was at a small table near the window, sorting donated paperbacks, writing spine numbers in a notepad. She heard his boots on the linoleum before she looked up. He could tell by the way her hands paused. Ryan. He pulled out the chair across from her and sat without asking. The table felt absurdly small. I know about Pinnacle Meridian, he said. Low, controlled. Your company funds the Lakeview project. My project. She set down the notepad. Expression still, the kind of stillness that costs something. I know. Did you know before you started volunteering here? The pause was half a second too long. Yes. Something tightened in his chest. So you knew I had a daughter at this school. You knew my crew worked your project. And you showed up and said nothing. Ryan, You sat here every Tuesday and let Sophie get attached to you, and you didn't think I had a right to know. Not here, she said, voice dropped. She glanced toward the other volunteer. Not like this. Not with people around. Then when? He leaned forward. We've been in the same city for months and you've had 100 chances and every time you chose silence. That's your move, Avery. I know that better than anyone. She flinched, just a tightening around the eyes. A fraction of movement. I owe you a real explanation. Not here. Set a time and place and show up. Can you do that? She held his gaze. Something moved behind her expression, older than guilt, older than fear. Friday, Shoreline Drive Coffee Shop. 8 p.m. I need you to mean that. I mean it. The teaching ade's laugh broke across the room and the moment fractured. Ryan stood. At the door, he stopped. She talks about you, he said, without turning around. Sophie, constantly. He let that land where it needed to land. Then he walked out into the cold. Friday night, 8 p.m., Shoreline Drive. The coffee shop was warm and amber-lit, exposed brick, pendant lights, people having the conversations they couldn't have elsewhere. Ryan arrived first. Corner table, facing the door. Avery came at 8:03. Dark sweater, boots, no blazer. She looked like someone who hadn't slept well, which Ryan recognized because he hadn't either. They ordered coffee they would barely touch. Then silence. The silence of people who rehearsed this conversation for years, and now that it's here, every prepared line has dissolved. Ryan broke it. Why did you leave? Simple, direct. The only question that had mattered for 10 years. Avery looked at the table, then at him. I was pregnant, she said. The room didn't stop. The pendant lights kept their amber warmth. The couple at the next table kept their quiet conversation. None of it cared. Ryan didn't move. When I left, she continued, voice steady with the steadiness of enormous effort. 3 days before I left Cleveland. 8 weeks. He heard his own breathing, couldn't feel his hands. You were pregnant. With? Yes. And you didn't? I know. Her jaw tightened. I know. The quiet between them had weight now. Head shape. My father found out, she said. He'd been against us from the beginning, but I didn't know how far he'd go. He told me if I stayed with you, if I had the baby, he'd pull every financial support he'd ever given me. My business loan. My mother's health coverage, still on his policy. She paused. I was 23, terrified. I told myself I'd go, get stable, come back and tell you. But you didn't. No. She looked up, eyes dry but only barely. I lost the baby at 12 weeks, alone, hotel room in Boston. Something inside. Ryan's chest broke open. Not grief exactly, or not only grief. The specific devastation of learning about a loss you were never permitted to carry. A baby he hadn't known existed. A grief he'd never been given. I didn't tell anyone, she said. Not my parents, not a friend. I went back to work, built Pinnacle Meridian. Made myself so busy there was no room for anything that hurt. For 10 years, he said. For 10 years. He stared at her. He thought about Sophie. About Rachel. About standing in hospital hallways and driving alone at 2 in the morning. Because grief in an empty house at that hour is unbearable. About every night he'd told himself Avery left because she simply didn't love him enough. I needed to know, he said. His voice was rough. Even if the outcome was the same, I had a right to know. Yes, you did. I never got to grieve it. I didn't even know there was something to grieve. I know, she exhaled. That's partly why I started volunteering. Not at your school specifically. I didn't know Sophie went to Riverside. 6 different schools over 3 years because I needed something real. Something that wasn't corporate and insulated. She looked at him directly. And then I sat across a reading table from Sophie Turner and she looked at me the same way you used to. Ryan pressed his fingers to his mouth. Looked out the window at the dark street. That must have been hard, he said. He meant it. The hardest thing, she said, and the most I'd felt in years. What do you want, Avery? I want to be accountable. To you and to Sophie. To be in her life slowly, carefully, on whatever terms you set. And I want you to know everything. All of it. I am done carrying secrets. He looked at her for a long time. Okay, he said finally. Then we talk about terms. He drove home and sat in his parked car in his own driveway for 11 minutes. Sophie's hall light glowed amber through the upstairs window. How do you trust someone who vanished? How do you protect your daughter from the risk of loving someone who might disappear again? And how do you deny a kid who lost her mother the chance to love someone new just because you're afraid? He didn't have the answer yet, but for the first time in 10 years, he had the truth. 2 days later. A park near the school. Sunday afternoon, Sophie at her grandmother's. Barely 40 degrees. Thin winter sun making everything look like an old photograph. A bench near the walking path. Joggers. A man with a small dog. Normal Sunday life moving around them like water around a rock. If this is going to work, Ryan said, there have to be real rules. Actual agreements. Tell me. First, honesty. Complete. Anything that touches Sophie, us, or my work, you tell me first, not after. Not when it's convenient. Agreed. Second, Sophie comes first. Always. Not our history, not your company. If either of us thinks being in her life is hurting her, we stop. Together. No unilateral decisions. Fair. Third, you don't disappear on her. If she attaches to you, you can't walk away without warning. You have to be honest with yourself about what you can commit to before you commit to anything. I can do that. Fourth, no using your position to smooth things over for us. No corporate leverage, no money shortcuts. If something needs fixing, we fix it the hard way. She was quiet. A jogger passed. The small dog barked at a pigeon. That's going to be the hardest one, she said. He appreciated that she didn't pretend otherwise. I know, that's why I named it. I have one to add, she said. I'm not trying to be Sophie's mother. I'm not replacing Rachel. I need you to know that, and Sophie to know it eventually. I'm something else. I don't know exactly what yet, but not that. Something loosened in his chest, a tension he hadn't realized he was holding. That's a good rule, he said. They sat with it. The sun moved. The joggers kept going around the loop, predictable and human. So it's complicated, Avery said, with a small dry note. It's complicated, Ryan agreed. One last thing, he said. Did you know about Sophie before you walked into Riverside? No. I knew you were in Cleveland. I'd seen your name in a contractor file for the Lakeview project. But I didn't know about Sophie. I didn't know about Rachel. When Sophie said her last name, Turner, Avery said quietly, I almost didn't finish the sentence I was saying. He thought about that. A 7-year-old with his last name across the reading table. A grief that was his and a grief that was hers, and a grief that belonged to both of them, unshared for a decade. It's complicated, she said. It's complicated, he agreed. The call came on a Wednesday morning, 11 days after the park bench. Ryan was reviewing the materials manifest with Marcus when his project manager Tessa crossed the lot at a speed that meant news. Not quite running, but close. She handed him a printed email. The Lakeview financing had been restructured. Pinnacle Meridian's commitment was amended to require a 60-day pause on Phase 2 pending internal review. Work to stop by end of the week. Phase 2 was structural framing. Phase 2 was where 16 of his 22 men were currently working. He read it twice, then called Avery. Did you order the Phase 2 pause? A beat. I ordered it. The site noise, drills, compressors, voices seemed to get very far away. You ordered it. There was a prior contract dispute with the Phase 2 subcontractor not disclosed in the original proposal. Stop. Did you tell me this was coming? Silence. No. So you made a unilateral decision about the project that employs 22 families, and you didn't give me a chance to address the problem. You just pulled the lever. I was trying to protect. Who? Because 16 of my guys go home Friday with nothing, and you were trying to protect me? Marcus had stopped walking. Tessa stood several feet away pretending to read the manifest. Rule 4, Ryan said, flat. Remember Rule 4? Silence. Not composure this time. Something that sounded like understanding arriving too late. You're right, she said, quietly, without defense. That actually stopped him. He'd expected resistance. I made it alone because it was faster, and I thought I was fixing a problem before it became yours. I didn't stop to think about the men, about Friday, about Rule 4. He pinched the bridge of his nose, looked up at the gray Cleveland sky. What can be reversed? I can reinstate Phase 2 if the subcontractor dispute is resolved. I need their cooperation. Send me the dispute documentation. I'll handle it. Ryan, Avery, Rule 2. These men are part of what's in front of us. Send me the documentation. She sent it in 40 minutes. He spent Wednesday and Thursday on the phone. The dispute was a billing error. By Thursday evening, the corrected letter was on Avery's desk. Marcus found him at the blueprint table that night. Phase 2 is back on? If she signs off by morning, she will. Marcus picked up his coffee. You know what you are? You're the guy who fixes things. That's not the worst thing to be. He left. Ryan's phone buzzed at 9:47 p.m. Phase 2 reinstated. Effective Monday. I'm sorry, Ryan. That's not sufficient, but it's true. He stared at the message. Then, we'll talk about it. Thank you for moving fast. She had done exactly what she'd promised not to do. But she owned it immediately. Without defense. Without delay. That was different from 10 years ago. Different from silence and a hotel room in Boston and 10 years of nothing. Avery called a meeting. Not a private conversation with Ryan, an external meeting with the city development liaison and the 2 other Lakeview contractors. She told Ryan 24 hours in advance and asked if he wanted to be in the room. He said yes. The meeting was in the Lakeview project trailer, folding tables, paper cup coffee, blueprints on every surface. 7 people in a room built for 5. Avery stood at the front in her usual blazer, but Ryan had learned to read the differences. Shoulders slightly higher, extra care in every word. She acknowledged the Phase 2 pause without softening language. Said it had been executed without proper consultation with site management. Said the billing dispute could have been resolved through direct communication before any action was taken. She apologized to the liaison and to the other contractors for the procedural failure. She announced that Pinnacle Meridian would cover overtime costs for all Lakeview workers for the first 2 reinstated weeks, from Pinnacle Meridian's operating budget, not the project fund. The room was quiet. After the meeting broke up, the city liaison, Dan, 20 years in municipal development, came to stand beside Ryan. She didn't have to say it that way, Dan said. No, Dan glanced at him. You 2 know each other. A long time ago. He nodded with the equanimity of someone who has seen enough human drama on construction sites to find nothing surprising. She's doing the hard version. That counts for something. He moved off to collect his papers. Avery crossed the room when the others had thinned. She looked tired in the specific way of someone who has paid a real price, not inconvenience, but genuine exposure. Was that okay? She asked. More than okay. The overtime costs come out of my personal draw, she said. Not the operating budget. I didn't say that in the room. You didn't have to tell me that either. Rule 1, she said. Complete honesty. They stood in the trailer with the paper cups and blueprints and the cold air that never quite left the space. 3 weeks later. A Saturday evening that smelled like soup and the last of November's cold. Avery came for dinner. Ryan hadn't planned it as a milestone. Sophie had asked twice in 1 week whether Miss Sinclair ever ate at people's houses. When Ryan mentioned offhandedly he might invite her, Sophie went quiet with the focused silence of a child trying very hard not to appear as excited as she is. He made pasta. Avery brought bread from a bakery on Shoreline Drive and a children's book. A story about a girl who builds a robot and discovers the robot was lonely too. Sophie held it immediately, running her thumb along the cover, which was how she greeted books she intended to love. Dinner was easy, surprisingly. Sophie talked through most of it, and Avery listened the way she listened in the library completely, with follow-up questions that proved she'd actually heard. She didn't try too hard, didn't perform. She just sat in the kitchen and was present. Gerald was on the table. That meant this mattered to Sophie. After dinner, Sophie climbed back into her chair, positioned Gerald facing the table, and looked at Avery with the directness of a 7-year-old who has been saving a question. "Do you have kids?" The kitchen was warm. Ryan's back was to them for 1 second at the sink. He went still. He turned off the water. Turned around. Avery's expression had changed, not collapsed, not performed. It had simply opened, the way a door opens when someone touches the handle from the other side. "No," she said. "I don't. Did you ever want some?" "Sophie," Ryan said. "It's okay," Avery said. She looked at Ryan briefly, a look that said, "I've got this, if you'll let me." He let her. "Yes," she said to Sophie, "I did, a long time ago. It didn't work out the way I hoped. But I think some people find ways to be in children's lives that look different from being a parent. Does that make sense?" Sophie looked at Gerald, her processing position. "Like how Grandma Carol is Dad's mom, but she also loves me like a regular grandma, even though she came in later." "Exactly like that," Avery said. Sophie nodded, satisfied. "I'm glad you came for dinner," she said, with the final authority of a 7-year-old who has rendered a verdict. "Me too," Avery said. After Avery left, Sophie in bed with a new book, Ryan stood at the front door. "Thank you for how you answered that," he said. She asked a straight question. She deserved a straight answer. Avery was on the top porch step, the December night cold and clear, ice sharp, the city an orange glow at the edges. Coat buttoned, hands in pockets. "It's complicated," she said. "It's complicated," he agreed. She smiled. The first full smile he'd seen, not composed, not careful. Just real. She went down the steps. He watched her walk to her car. Behind him, the hall light glowed amber. Sophie's room was quiet. Not fixed, he thought, but started. December. 5:15 a.m. Thermal shirt, work jeans, cereal over the sink. The overhead light doesn't flicker anymore. He replaced the bulb last week, partly because it needed it, partly because he'd been telling himself he'd do it for 2 years, and it was time to stop letting small things stay broken. 3 messages on his phone. Marcus, Phase 3 drawings are in. Clean, let's go. 22 families, good January. Tessa, Phase 3 materials list reviewed plus cleared. Avery, sent at 11:47 p.m. Sophie's Christmas program is the 5th/10th. She asked if I was coming. I said I'd check with you. He reads it twice. Thinks about rules. About Sophie positioning Gerald at the dinner table like a tiny stuffed moderator. About Avery on the porch steps, the first real smile in the December cold. He types, "She'd like that." So would I. He pockets the phone and goes upstairs. Sophie's room smells like lavender. She is perfectly still, one arm around Gerald. He stands in the doorway for 12 seconds, still not a habit he is aware of, and looks at his daughter, who is 7 and resilient and already braver than him in most ways that matter. She lost her mother at 3. She grew up with a father who shows love in waffles and permission slips in 12 seconds in doorways. She sat across a reading table from a woman carrying a decade of grief and welcomed her with a crayon drawing and a question about reading fairies. Sophie didn't fix anything. She just showed up. Maybe that's the whole lesson. He goes downstairs and makes waffles, even though there isn't time. Because some things are worth being slightly late for, the waffle iron clicks and steams. The kitchen fills with the smell of butter and warmth. Outside, Cleveland in December. Gray sky, cold breath, the city moving in its ordinary ways. He is not cured of 10 years. He is not done grieving the loss he only recently learned was his to carry. He doesn't know how this ends, with Avery, with the project, with any of it. He knows 16 men showed up on Monday because he made enough phone calls. He knows a woman who built armor for a decade is learning, slowly, to set it down. He knows his daughter, Gerald and Lavender, and a bookshelf with a new story on it, is okay. Okay is not the same as fine. Okay is the beginning. Okay is moving into the first room of a house that isn't finished because the alternative is standing in the cold. Sophie's feet on the stairs, fast, then slow at the last step, then a small jump to the floor. She appears in the kitchen doorway, hair in the morning ponytail that will be sideways by 3 p.m. Gerald under one arm. She sees the waffle iron. Her face does the thing. Waffles? Waffles, he confirms. She sits down. Positions Gerald facing the table. Looks at Ryan with the morning openness of a kid whose trust in the world is not unconditional, but is, against all reasonable odds, intact. Is Ms. Sinclair coming to my Christmas program? He turns back to the waffle iron. Yes, Soph, she is. Sophie runs her thumb over Gerald's worn ear, the gesture she's had since she was 4, always when something good has been confirmed. Good, she says simply. Outside, the gray sky lightens by a fraction. Not sunrise, just the suggestion of it. The city beginning to remember what light feels like. Ryan Turner is late and the waffles are nearly done, and something that was broken for a very long time is not fixed, but it has started. And some mornings, that's everything.